This lab asks you to think about IP addresses, do some calculations, choose some router IP addresses, and then configure them. It's all about IP address configuration. Then, if you're also using this lab with my YouTube CCNA course, I ask you to go beyond that and predict the connected routes and local routes, and then verify those with show commands. So let me set you up with lab, and then you can go do it. For a quick bit of context, you'll find the topics related to this lab in Volume 1, Part 5, Chapter 17 of the official Cisco Press Cert guides. So this lab, here's the direct link you can go to. The lab is called IPv4 Addresses 3. Yes, there is a 1 and 2. There's even a 4 and 5, but this one's number 3. And as usual, the blog page for the lab, it tells you about the scenario up top. Then right in the middle, it says, hey, go do the lab. As usual, you can do it in Packet Tracer, and this one also supports using CML-Free edition as well. Then the bottom part of the page has an answer and explanation of the answer. However, in this case, I've got both an intro video, this video, and a review video if you want to get a little deeper look at the lab. There's not a lot to the initial state for this lab. We've got a 3-router network with R1 on the bottom left, by the way, and R3 at the top. The diagram on the lab blog page shows the interface IDs very clearly, and the only pre-configuration is that there's a host name configured on each device. So there are no prior IP addresses or anything like that. So host names only. I don't even bother showing you the host name configuration. Then the diagram shows these IP addresses and masks off of the LAN interfaces, as well as one IP address and mask over the WAN interfaces. And that'll make more sense once we get into the lab directions coming up next. So what should you do? Well, remember those IP addresses spread around the diagram? I want you to calculate the 4 subnet facts about each subnet. Then for the router LAN interfaces, the outer edges, I want you to choose the numerically lowest address in each subnet to use for that router. Then on the WAN interfaces, the links between the routers, I want you to choose the 2 lowest addresses. And then you got to pick one for one router and one for the other. So use the lower router number gets the lower IP address. So R1 to R2, R1 gets the lower number, R2 gets the higher number. Make sure all the router interfaces you're using are enabled, and then I want you to do some ping tests. Each router, you should ping its own IP addresses, and you can ping the IP address on the other end of each WAN link. That's it for the standard instructions from the lab blog page. But if you're using this lab after seeing me talk about it in one of my YouTube videos, here are the extra instructions of what to do. That video talks about connected routes and ARP tables, so here you go. Think about what connected routes will exist when you do this lab first, and only then use the show IP route command on each of the 3 routers to see if what you predicted is really true. And if not, think about why that is. Likewise, before you generate any traffic, think about what ARP table entries would exist in this case. Then do some pings, and then use the show IP ARP command to check your ARP tables and see if those entries really do exist. So in other words, exercise your understanding of connected routes and ARP tables. All right, if you're ready, go ahead and do the lab in Cisco Packet Tracer. If your preference is to use CML, then take a few more moments to watch the rest of the video, and I'll give you a few tips about using the supplied CML file. If you choose to use CML-Free edition to do this lab, as is typically the case, CML uses different interface IDs than are available in Cisco Packet Tracer. So the lab has a diagram like this with these interfaces you'll see in Packet Tracer. In CML, you'll see these interface IDs. So I try to line up the numbering. So gig 00 in the lab, in CML, you'll see E00. Gig 010, you'll see E01. So notice the bold numbers. 02 matches to 02, 03 to 03. Hopefully that'll make it a little easier to do the lab when you're referencing the page and the video. Now you can go do lab in CML. If you're ready for the next instructional video, you can click on the left and move on to a video about network static routes. But if you want to see that review video for this lab, do the lab first, of course. But the review video should be linked over on the right. Thanks a bunch, and I'll see you in the next video.